Welcome in. All right, it's 6:15. If you're just waking up, just joining us, happy Independence Day to you. Tonight, you're probably going to be spending the evening watching some of these, getting the fireworks going, grilling out, which we've been doing all morning on Good Morning Jacksonville. But of course, the underlying theme of 4th of July is always fireworks, and perhaps you're going to do them in the neighborhood with the friends, and that's fine. But let's talk about the injuries, and mainly to do this, to keep it on the front of your mind. You got a little situational awareness as things go, and places that generally, according to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, caused the most injuries. Fireworks involved in 11,900 injuries treated in ERs across the United States in the year 2015, the last year for data. So let us break down these numbers, specific body parts, and why. The body parts most often injured were the hands and fingers, 32%, and that makes sense, what you're grabbing, things like that, picking up hot fireworks still. About 3,800 injuries there. Of course, next up, head, face, ears at 25%. More specifically, the eyes at 16%, so please protect those. The legs now, 15% of the hits from fireworks in the year 2015, or about 1,900 injuries happened in the legs. This poor guy is sustaining all kinds of injuries. And for that last 4%, happened to people's arms while they were lighting off fireworks. So keep in mind, the brunt come from hands and head injuries. So don't pick up the extra hot firework, and have a bucket of water handy as well to make sure they cool off. Let's break it down by gender because, of course, you can probably guess, men were hurt in firework accidents a whole lot more than the women back in 2015. Men accounted for 61% of the ER visits, while women made up the other 39%. Most people hurt because they lit the fireworks too close to themselves. Perhaps they picked up the hot firework after lighting them. So always a good idea. Keep the bucket of water handy, as you just mentioned. That way you're extinguishing things and having everything safe as they cool down. Caution this 4th of July, and we'll be happy and we won't be reading about you on the news. Katie? All right, Katie, thank you so much. This is a statistic that will make any parent cringe, no matter the age of your child. As of this morning, we have reported on 5 child drownings on the First Coast in just the past few weeks, in a little more than a month's time. Now, swimming lessons, so very, very important, and it's a situation that hits very close. A father of 2, okay? So from birth, with Oliver and Ruby, my children, we talked about giving them swim lessons. This is actually from summer of last year, swimming in the pool. Ollie already at it since he was about 1 years old, and quite good at it. And it doesn't take much, really just a little bit of persistence, get them in the water, get them acclimated with it, and it's one more step you can do to stay safe. Now, we showed you this story last week, and we don't often repeat stories, but this one is so important that we want to show it to you again. Lindsay Boach takes us inside a special class where kids start very early so they know how to swim their entire long lives. Hearing that fireworks show with a live symphony, pretty amazing. The fireworks show's done. The grill's cooled, hopefully. But it may surprise you to find out just how much us Americans spent to celebrate our nation's birthday on the 4th of July, and how much we spend every single year. The National Retail Federation forecasted spending on Independence Day this year, and as a whole, Americans expected to spend $7.1 billion on food alone. That's just the food, which is actually up quite a bit from years past. Maybe it's an indicator of how the economy is doing. So how does all of this break down? Last year, Americans spent more than $800 million on just the beef for their cookouts. Another $580 million was spent on chicken and pork. And what better way to wash it all down with a cold, cool one, right? Wallet Hub found that in 2016, Americans spent more than $1 billion on beer alone, and another $500 million on the wine for Independence Day. Pretty obvious what everyone is really spending that cash on. What about the fireworks, though? A lot of people spending thousands of dollars. We'll drop thousands of dollars for the neighborhood fireworks celebrations. Wallet Hub found in 2016, fireworks displays cost Americans more than $800 million as a whole. That's as the country. And for each city or government-operated fireworks celebration, municipalities usually spend anywhere from $5,000 for their shows to even up to $30,000. Totally worth it for pictures like that. That is how you celebrate. Lindsay?
And I'm Monica Garcia, tracking a developing story from the Jacksonville landing. The family of a teen who was killed there in January now plans to file a lawsuit. At that time, 16-year-old Kamoy Peterson was killed in a double shooting at the landing, where a 13-year-old was also injured. His 18-year-old shooter is now facing murder charges, because the state attorney's office ruled it was self-defense. Well, in a letter to the city, the Peterson family is now seeking damages, saying lack of security led to the teen's death. Yesterday, in part, the family and their attorney released this statement. They said the Jacksonville landing is not a stranger to criminal violent activity. In fact, a definitive pattern of violence and criminal behavior has developed over the years. The city of Jacksonville and the owners or managers of the Jacksonville landing were on notice that these types of incidents could occur there. Well, the letter goes on to say that better measures should have been taken to ensure safety. After the shooting, the state attorney's office has said that an off-duty officer was working security at the Jacksonville landing on that day and kept telling groups of teenagers loitering there to leave. Well, the city is not commenting due to pending litigation, and the owner of the landing has not yet responded. I'm Monica Garcia, First Coast News.
Good Monday morning and welcome back. On mornings like this morning, I think we're going to make it requisite every 10 minutes or so to show the live look at Jacksonville Beach. It is a beautiful start to the morning, and you can bet it will be packed today. Thousands of vacationers, thousands of locals riding the bikes along First there and along the beach. It's going to be beautiful, but parents, you know how hard it can be to protect your skin from sun damage, especially the children, though. Think about it. Your kids left to their own devices may or may not put the sunscreen on at all, and if they do, is it on the appropriate way? First Coast News' Monica Garcia decided to find out with the help of a local pediatrician.
A federal voter fraud commission asked several states for the personal information of millions of voters. And now the state of Florida will turn over some of that data. Monica Garcia joins us now in studio with the details. Monica.
Well, good morning, Keith. So this is a request that's seen a lot of pushback from states because of privacy concerns. You know, we don't want to hand over our information if we don't have to. But Florida's Secretary of State doesn't quite see it that way. Ken Denster says he will be handing over your voter data to the Trump Commission on Vote Fraud. He says he has to abide by state public record law, but he also says, hey, I'm not going to be handing over everything. What he gives will be tailored to fit boundaries. So then what exactly is the state going to be handing over to the White House? Well, that is your names, addresses, your dates of birth, political party affiliation, but not your driver license information, parts of your social security numbers, as well as data deemed exempt or confidential, according to state law, because they forbid that. So how do you know if your information is going to be part of all of this? Well, if you've been a registered voter in Florida since 2006, then most likely you are. By the way, Trump's commission has not exactly said what they plan on doing with this data. Back to you guys.
Happy Friday, and Katie, get ready for a gorgeous sunrise. You ready for the weekend?
I am so ready, and there's nothing more beautiful than watching the sunrise come up.
Yes, and I've liked some terminology you've been using. You use face of the sun hot. That's how hot it's been.
That's the best way I can describe it when you get out of your car in the afternoon.
Yeah, it's been like desert hot out there, and we're looking at an extra spectacular sunrise due to Saharan dust. Yeah, this is taking this desert effect to a new level, but we've tracked Saharan dust all the way from Africa across the Atlantic, and it's made it all the way into Texas, including Florida. So you see these lighter patchy areas here, and that tends to enhance our sunrises and sunsets this time of year. Pretty interesting, right? Also, we're seeing more dry air in place today, so fewer storms, and it's all about the heat. But as we look at our precision cast, Blunt Island, over to Hanna Park. 6 p.m. you could see a pop-up storm, but again, these are showers that last about 20-30 minutes, and it's the quick lightning that I'm worried about out there with those downpours. And then up into Georgia, a better chance of one of those daily downpours for the St. Simons Pier at 5:45, but all in all, it's about that heat index in the shade, Katie. This is not in the sun, of 110. So we got to slow it down, and we'll have some heat stroke tips coming right up.
You know, you got to be so careful drinking so much water, drink Gatorade this time of year.
Right.
Just make sure you're really staying hydrated. Let's take a live look outside. Gorgeous sunrise. This is I-95 near State Road 16, so near the exit for the St. Augustine outlets if maybe you're going to sneak in some shopping this morning. If you're taking a look here towards your interstates around Jacksonville, still not seeing any major problems. I-95 looks great from 295 towards downtown. It's about a 13-minute ride at this point. No problems there along 295. Atlantic, if you're traveling maybe from the beaches, A1A towards the Hart Bridge, it's about a 23-minute ride. That little slowdown you see going towards the intercoastal, it looks like it's people maybe stopping at a stoplight, but no reports of crashes there at the moment.
That's right. So some good travel weather. We'll have more on that coming right up.
We will return our nation to the moon. We will go to Mars, and we will still go further to places that our children's children can only imagine.
The vice president vows America will lead in space once again. He was at Cape Canaveral on Thursday. He announced that he will lead the reformed National Space Council with the intention of sending NASA astronauts back into orbit in the future.
Keitha, let's take a second. Let's talk about just how ambitious a mission to Mars would be. President Trump, of course, signed a bill in March requiring NASA to put humans on the red planet by the year 2033. That included $19 billion in funding, $19 billion. But how will the administration actually accomplish such a feat? Of course, depending on NASA and the new crop of astronauts that just moved in. NASA says this is all going to happen in 3 stages. First, a stage called Earth Reliant. Relative to this video you see here happening from now until the mid-2020s. It'll focus on development of life support systems and health advancements that could keep humans alive in deep space, but it'll be closer to Earth-style missions. Now, the second stage is called Proving Ground, according to NASA. From the year 2018 until 2030, NASA crews will figure out how to go past the moon and all the way on to Mars into deeper space. It'll start with an unmanned launch of that Orion rocket that's supposed to carry the NASA astronauts, and if all goes according to plan, astronauts would board the Orion after that to go further than humans have ever gone before. It gives you chills, doesn't it? All right, the third and final stage is what NASA calls Earth Independent. All right, and that'll happen after the year 2030, the goal, of course, 2033, and focus on sending unmanned missions out to land on Mars. And after that, NASA again wants to send human beings to the red planet the early 2030s in our lifetime for sure. And would be very exciting to see it happen. Be history. Keitha.
It is, yes, indeed, exciting.
All right, Matt, thank you so much. I want to play a news guessing game with you this morning at 6:26. Make you do a little bit of work, all centered around something that we've probably all seen driving along 95 right there at JTB. It's that white tower. You may see it during your morning commute just whenever you're around town. I've seen it hundreds of times and I've wondered. Again, the corner of 95 and JTB. It stands out. Construction of the white tower has been going on for a couple of months now. People have been asking about it online. A lot of guesses about what it could be. So I know many others are probably scratching their heads about this as well. Here's where the game's going to come in. I'm going to give you 3 stories. So listen up. 3 possibilities about what it could be. 2 of the stories are fake stories. I want you to tell me which one is real. We actually have voting going on right now. firstcoastnews.com/gauge with the 3 stories. And you can let us know what you think. Let's go on to story number 1 right now. Story 1, possibility of what the tower could be. A company coming to Jacksonville to build a new planetarium. With the private space industry growing so fast and the interest in interstellar travel growing, a company out of Colorado building this facility to show what space travel would be like. There's option A. Let's go to story number 2 now. Something we've heard about in Jacksonville, an indoor skydiving facility. We've seen those in Orlando. Last month we told you about iFly perhaps coming to Jacksonville. There was speculation about where that location would be. We're trying to confirm that. And it perhaps seems this may be the location. But how about story number 3? It's going to be something called a car vending machine. We've shown you this video before out of Atlanta. A company called Carvana, an online car buying service, set up a car vending machine. You put in a special coin and the machine actually delivers the car to you out of the tower. Looks awfully familiar. There are your possibilities. We want you to vote right now. Do you think planetarium? Do you think indoor skydiving? Or is it a car vending machine, which is just mind-blowing and preposterous? But actually, what's most preposterous is actually true. It is going to be that Carvana vending machine right there. You can buy a car online, and in Jacksonville now you can go see it all work. It's kind of cool. It'll be a neat little thing to see on your commute. The construction company building the tower is called Shara. They're a North Florida firm. They confirmed with me that that will be the new car buying facility. It is set to be done at the end of this summer, which is a pretty fancy thing. All right, let's take a look at what you voted on, though. I want to see if you believe me, if you called my bluff, or if you knew exactly what it was going to be from the beginning. Well, no one thought planetarium, so fair enough. We already have a pretty awesome planetarium in Mosh anyway, the best one in the solar system. Indoor Skydiving Center had some people going at 29%, but yes, I think you've had probably seen it something similar to this before at the indoor car dispensing facility, the vending machine, at 71%. Now, indoor skydiving, back to that for a minute. There is rumor and a story that had been told that in 2018 we may have one out at Top Golf. We still have to work to confirm that. Also guesses online that it was a firefighting structure, a new practice facility for that. But no, now Carvana coming to Jacksonville. Keitha?
Wow, I'm surprised the majority of people actually got that, 71%. Yeah. And welcome back on this Friday morning. It's time now for your power block of nonstop news before Good Morning America and the Today Show take over. So all eyes right now are on Germany as President Donald Trump meets Vladimir Putin face to face for the first time as commander-in-chief.
Now, Democratic lawmakers have sent a letter to the president telling him to confront Putin about Russian involvement in the 2016 election. We're going to have more on this coming up in 4 minutes.
And here in Florida, the state secretary of state says that he will provide the Trump administration with voter data requested by a federal integrity commission, but only some of that data the commission will actually ask for that they will receive. Monica Garcia will have the details in just 2 minutes. But first, Lake City police officers in the hospital this morning after a terrifying ordeal on Thursday.
Okay, so Officer Stuart Robertson was dragged behind a car for a mile after a suspect tried to get away from a traffic stop. Alex Osiris has the very latest on this developing story this morning. Sandalwood area really hit hard emotionally the last couple of days as well. A rash of crime now puts Jacksonville Beach residents on edge. The city has seen 2 homicides in just the past couple of weeks. Here's why the city's mayor says cutting down on big events could actually decrease the crime rate. That's coming up in 2 minutes as well.
That's their hope so far. Now we have some big news for job seekers. Amazon is actually canceling 2 of its hiring events that were scheduled for next week because it's seen such a good turnout at its first 2 events. So if you want to attend their job fair, the last chance to do so will be tomorrow morning at 10 at the Legend Center. But right now, though, we want to turn things over to our storm expert, Mike Prangley, for what's in store today. Hey, Mike.
Boy, do we have the opportunity to talk about a lot of incredible hunts here and catches throughout Florida. And that's the luxury of doing this in the morning show. You see some really odd stuff. But this 17-year-old may have one hunting story to beat them all. Look how tall that gator is compared to that high school football player. His name's Josh Patrick. Was on a gator hunt with his dad in Brevard County Monday. When he saw the 12-foot, 6-inch gator, he said he knew it was that big just from the size of its head. Josh, football player, so for him to look small next to that thing says something.
We initially saw the alligator's head and we were able to realize that this is going to be a big alligator. Knowing that it was a success, it's really an adrenaline experience, you know, just an adrenaline rush.
Man needs thrills, doesn't he? He plays football at Cocoa High School, which won Class 4A state title last year, beating Bowl School, just pure coincidence, tying it in locally. And he says once he's done with football, he's going to stay in the family business. That family business is hunting gators in Florida. We continue to follow breaking news that occur while you're sleeping here at 6 o'clock in the morning. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office now conducting a death investigation. It's in the Moncrief area of town.
A man was found shot to death on a sidewalk. This happened near the corner of West 31st and Myrtle Streets. We want to get right out to our Alex Osiris. He is live on the scene. He's been there pretty much all morning long gathering details. What's the latest, Alex?
It's the race so many have waited for. We're talking about Michael Phelps, Olympic great, versus a great white shark. Yeah, what better way to kick off Shark Week? A little ridiculous, but that fits the theme. It's, of course, an easy pick. You would pick the shark. Can swim 25 to 30 miles per hour. As for Phelps, well, he can only swim 5 to 6 miles per hour. I use only loosely considering he's got more gold medals than anyone. But Phelps wore a special wetsuit and a monofin for this event. It increased his speed a little. Went head-to-head in a 100-meter race with Phelps swimming his signature stroke, the butterfly. So what happened? Could the 6'4" Olympian take down the 8-foot great white? And that 8-foot great white we had there on screen, fake. It was virtual, right? And looking at the real race, also fake shark. How about that? A lot of people weren't too happy with how that panned out. Phelps didn't race the real great white. Instead, went up against that virtual computer-generated shark. Phelps did wear the monofin for added speed, got a good start, but the simulated great white took the lead at the 25-meter mark, won it by a nose. 2 seconds was the margin. The shark finished in 36.1 seconds. Phelps finished in 38.1 seconds. I just feel like if it was a real shark, Phelps is going to swim a little faster, right? I mean, just life depends on it, and I think something will click in there. By the way, in an earlier time trial, Phelps actually did beat a reef shark. So that's something. Outswim that if you needed to. Needless to say, fans a little disappointed. They wanted to see the real thing. They had no clue what was about to happen. Emma hopped on the Twitter and gave us this reaction. Phelps takes second in a photo finish is a weird sentence to use when talking about a computer-generated race. Agree with you, Emma. And Bree, how about this? Say what you want. Phelps versus Shark is bringing America together no matter who you believe in. We all believe in Michael Phelps. And our own Mike Kay, he works here at First Coast News, does some Jaguar stuff for us. Had probably the tweet of the night, and I think we've all enjoyed this one. Mike Kay says, tune in next week when Michael Phelps races a Carnival cruise ship simulation. Listen, Phelps might be able to beat that. Why not? Give it a try, at least while it's idle.